Hello! Today I'm going to be reading books outside of my comfort zone. The main genre that I read is romance for sure. That's like 95% of what I read. More specifically, like contemporary adult romance and also YA romance. I've also dabbled some in mysteries and thrillers, which I also like, but most of the time I also enjoy if they have romance subplots in them. And there are literally so many genres. There's sci-fi, historical fiction, literary fiction, horror, fantasy, dystopian, action-adventure, and then there's also non-fiction, which has like self-help, memoirs, biographies. I don't know, I'm probably missing like a billion other genres. Classics. There's literally so much that I haven't read, and for somebody who reads like 6 to 10 books a month, I feel like it's kind of crazy that I have never tried venturing out of my comfort zone. I have 5 books that I plan to read this week. I'm starting off with self-help. I've actually read one self-help book before, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and I liked it, but I think I read it last year and then just didn't pick up a self-help book again. So I've like tiny bit dabbled in self-help, but I don't really feel comfortable with it. So I thought How to Win Friends and Influence People was a good place to start because I feel like this is the self-help book I've heard of the most. And I looked it up and this book was first published in 1937, which is crazy. I don't know why I just thought it was published in the last like 20 years, but no, this is like an OG self-help book. It's gotta be good if it's still popular after being around for so many years. All right, I'm gonna go sit in my reading corner and start reading. I just read the little like preface of 9 suggestions to get the most out of this book, and it really says read each chapter twice before going on to the next one, review this book every single month, check up each week on the progress you're making, and keep notes in the back of the book. That's a lot to do. I understand they're just suggesting how to get the most out of this book, but that's a lot. I just finished page 47, aka part 1, and wow, so far I really like it. I feel like I'm genuinely learning a lot. The kind of overall theme of this first part is that people's desire to do well is stronger than fear. So if you are like a leader at a company, giving your workers praise and admiration is gonna go so much farther than criticizing them for what they do wrong. And I feel like that applies to so many everyday scenarios, even if you're not like a leader or manager at a company. And I literally underlined and wrote so many good notes in this first part because there were just like so many other little points that I think are really, really important. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading, but so far I'm like surprised how much I like this book. Okay, I just finished page 105/part 2, and this section was called 6 Ways to Make People Like You. This section I feel like wasn't as like mind-blowingly learning the whole time. I feel like it was more like a good recap on things I feel like I already know, like remembering people's names, making sure to smile at people, being a good listener. So definitely a good refresher, but I was honestly a little bit less interested in this section. I'm on page 122 now. I still really like the book. It's just like, I feel like it's not a book that I want to read in one sitting. A real like gripping fictional book, I feel like I can like get into and read all at once. But this book, I feel like I was loving it at the beginning and now it's kind of like going in one ear out the other. I think it would be better if I put it down and came back to it tomorrow. Good morning! This morning I finished reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. Overall, I really liked it. I would say a solid 4 stars. I feel like as far as self-help books go, I obviously don't have much to compare it to, but I feel like I genuinely learned so much from this book, and I hope that the things I learned in this book will stick with me for the rest of my life. I could definitely see it being a book that I would like reference throughout my life as different situations come up. It for sure teaches you how to make better friends and colleagues and acquaintances, how to be a good leader. It's just so much good social skills that can get you so far in life, because I feel like how we socialize and communicate with each other is honestly probably the best skill to have. Will I be reading self-help books in the future? I would say yes. I don't foresee it being like a huge part of what I read every single year. I could see myself picking up like 2 to 3 self-help books a year. I feel like it's really great to break up all of the fiction that I read. Overall, I think I would give the genre 3 stars just because I don't see myself picking it up all of the time, but I did enjoy it. Okay, next up, I'm gonna be reading Pride and Prejudice. I have really been wanting to read a classic. Now, I was Googling like what defines a classic book. On Wikipedia, it says a classic is a book accepted as being exemplary or particularly noteworthy. So that would be books like Grapes of Wrath, Lord of the Flies, The Great Gatsby, A Tale of Two Cities, books like that. Basically, I feel like all the books they make you read in high school. I feel like Pride and Prejudice is a good place to start because it's a romance, which I'm very comfortable with. So reading a classic romance feels like a good segue into classics. I got the audiobook version, which I used to be like really into reading audiobooks, and I haven't listened to an audiobook in a long time. So I was like, I feel like it'd be fun to do one audiobook in this video. So hopefully I enjoy it. Also, look at my top. I feel like this top is very fitting for reading Pride and Prejudice. I feel very like Victorian princess-like in it. And this top is from Simple Retro, which is actually the sponsor of today's video. They are a fashion brand run by women that have really cool, timeless, vintage pieces. They sent me a bunch of pieces and I actually styled them based on book characters, which I feel like is a really cool way to introduce you guys to their clothes. So here are their clothes as different book characters. I feel like this is something America from the Selection would wear, especially on one of the days when the prince allowed her to wear jeans in the palace. I feel like such a princess with the puff sleeves. This sweater, which you guys saw me wear yesterday, is giving me Pip from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Like, it's a little bit innocent, something a good girl would wear, but it's got that like killer red. Like, I am a teen who does know how to solve murders. Also, this sweater is literally so soft. Like, I will be living in it this winter. The second I saw this sweater vest, I was like Fallon from November 9th. I could 1000% see Fallon wearing this to meet up with Ben every single November 9th. Giving fall in the colors, but it also works for California, where Fallon meets up with Ben because it's sleeveless. Okay, tell me Zara from The Fine Print wouldn't wear this sweater. Like, she is such a ray of sunshine in that book. I feel like she would not be caught dead in dark colors in any season, including fall and winter. Like, I just see this for her fall winter wardrobe. And that is all the pieces that I got from Simple Retro. You can click the link in my description to start shopping for your fall winter wardrobe. I'm so excited for my new fall pieces. Okay, let's get back to reading. I recently went to New Mexico, so I have a lot of laundry to do, a lot of unpacking to do, a lot of cleaning to do. So I think I'm just gonna get a lot of my chores done while I listen to Pride and Prejudice, and I'll update you guys as I go. You guys, I'm 16 minutes in and Mr. Darcy just got introduced. So far, they've described him as very handsome, but it sounds like he has the worst personality. Okay, update. I'm 2.5 hours into the audiobook and I'm having really mixed feelings. The language is so like posh and fancy. The book is set in the 18th century and I kind of feel like I'm listening to an audio version of Bridgerton, which I love the show Bridgerton, but I don't know. When it's not in like visual format, the audio itself is just like not doing much for me. Like, it's so hard for me to focus because they talk so fancy. Like, they're out here like, Madame, I am obliged to ask you for this dance. I keep having to go back because I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of considering DNFing this book. I'm gonna give it a solid chance though because it is so freaking popular. I feel like you can't just DNF it in the first like 2 hours. So I'm gonna listen for a little bit longer and then make my final decision. Okay, you guys, I'm almost 4 hours into the book and I am DNFing it. I'm sorry, I hate DNFing books. I hate it. By the way, if you don't know what DNF is, it is do not finish. I literally feel like I'm betraying books and everyone who likes the book. I don't know why, like that's probably irrational, like books do not have thoughts and feelings, but I feel like a betrayer. Anyway, the reason I'm DNFing is basically what I talked about earlier. I just like can't focus on it. I wonder if getting the audiobook was a mistake. I'm very curious if I got the actual physical paperback book, if I would have liked it more because I would be like physically reading and absorbing the words. I just audio wise, like it's going in one ear out the other with all this like older, fancier language. But I was actually reading the chapter summaries on Spark Notes of the book and the story is really interesting. Like, I actually really like the story. So I think I might watch either the movie or the limited series tonight because I just really want to know like what is Pride and Prejudice about. Maybe I'll like the story in a different format, aka movie format. Today we are reading a poetry book, which I don't think I've ever read any poetry ever. Chapter. I absolutely know nothing about this book or this author. I just googled poetry books and this is one of the first ones that came up and the title was super interesting to me. It says, "The Things I Didn't Say in Therapy" explores my raw, unedited emotions regarding grief, abuse, mental illness, love, and the road to recovery. So this one might be kind of a heavy one, which I'm a little scared for, but I actually just started seeing a therapist like 6 months ago. So as somebody very new to therapy, I thought this could be an interesting read. I'm also really curious like how long the poems are gonna be. Oh, okay, interesting. Some are super short, like few lines, and some are like a whole page and then go on a bit to the next page. All right, I'm gonna start reading. Aw, this really tiny short poem kind of breaks my heart. I'm the kind of sad that makes me feel like I will never find the sun again. Okay, I also like this one even though it's also really sad. It's 2:34 a.m. and instead of sleeping, I'm trying to find the words to explain how the world looks without you in it. You took the sun with you. That last line, "you took the sun with you." Okay, I finished the book. It took me about 25 minutes in total to read, so a very fast read. I have a little bit of mixed thoughts. Overall, I think I would say 3.5 stars for this book. It's really hard to give a rating because I've never read any other poetry books, so I don't really have much to compare it to. I really liked the last section called About Recovery. The first 3 sections I didn't relate to as much and didn't feel as personally powerful to me, but I also have not been through the experiences that the author has been through, so it's like, again, really hard for me to critique, I feel like, because I feel like if you have been through the traumas that this author has experienced, then it may be like really incredibly powerful to you. If you do pick up this poetry book, definitely check the trigger warnings because it is about abuse and mental health among many other heavy topics. I kind of wanted more, like a lot of the poems were only a few lines, and just when I started to get into them, it was over and I moved on to the next poem. But maybe that's just the fiction novel reader in me that just wanted to know everything about her life. Do I think I'll read poetry again in the future? I don't know. I would definitely give it a second try. What would I rate the poetry genre as a whole? 2.5 stars. I just feel like I want an entire story to sink my teeth into. But since we read this one so fast, we can start another genre today. I'm really excited to be starting a fantasy book. Fantasy, like I really feel like out of all these genres, fantasy could be it for me. Oh my gosh, I should get all the fantasy books I own and show you guys. Okay, so fantasy books that I own, I have Shadow of Bone and Six of Crows, both by Leigh Bardugo. I also have Letters and Lattes, Spinning Silver, and A Touch of Darkness. So these are on my fantasy TBR pile. So I better like fantasy because I'm already committed to 5 fantasy books. I actually already read one fantasy book, The Atlas 6, which I really liked, but I feel like it was very light fantasy. Like it took place on our Earth, like our current world, current times. The characters just happen to be magicians and have special powers, and I feel like true fantasy books take place in like a whole different world, have like entirely different terms that we don't know. They have like creatures. Okay, I'm gonna get started reading. Oh, I'm on the first sentence and we already have a brand new word for a creature that I don't know. It says the servants called them Malenchki, little ghosts. My journey into fantasy terms begins. I just hit page 100 and I went into this book completely blind, but now I have a sense for what the plot is about. It is about Alina, who is a cartographer, but when her regiment is attacked, Alina unleashes dormant magic not even she knew she possessed, which is on the back of the book. But because I went into it blind, I was so shocked when she unleashed that dormant magic. And so far, I really like the book. I love the world building, and I also think it's gonna have a romance subplot because Alina has a crush on her childhood best friend. And if this book is childhood best friends to lovers, I'm gonna be so excited. Okay, I'm on page 173 and I think Alina might be romantically interested in another character. So now I'm like, are we gonna have a love triangle? I'm on page 196 and oh my gosh, something romantic just happened between 2 characters and I am literally so shocked. Like I kind of saw it coming, but like I am in disbelief right now. Also, I love how this is a fantasy and I've like only been commenting on the romance aspect. As far as my thoughts on it as a fantasy genre, I feel like there's been a lot of world building, but I feel like we're finally getting out of world building and the plot is like really picking up, so I'm really getting into it now. Oh my gosh, I just got to page 237 and some info was revealed that literally changes everything. It changes how I feel about a certain character. It completely changes the plot. I'm just really, really shocked. Wow. I just finished the book and I really liked it. It did take me a little while to like really get into it. I think I would give it 4.5 stars. I loved the world. It's just like so cool and magical reading about an entirely new world, which I have never done before, obviously, since I've never like really read fantasy before, and I might be entering my fantasy era. Writing a book in general seems so hard and so creative, but fantasy books especially seem so difficult, like to invent your own world and the own laws of your universe. It's just so cool and I have mad respect for fantasy authors now. Would I read fantasy again? Heck yeah. I plan to read the other 4 fantasy books that I own and get the second book in the series. What would I rate fantasy as a genre? 5 stars. Literally 5 stars. I'm so happy that I found a new genre to fall in love with. All right, I've got one more book and one more genre to start in this video, so I'll see you guys tomorrow to start our 5th book. Today we're doing a short story book. So this book has 18 short stories that range from like a page to just under 10 pages, and it is called Shut Up You're Pretty. I really don't know much about it. I got the recommendation from TikTok and it sounded like it was about femininity and coming of age and growing up as a woman. So I'm gonna read the back of the book to you guys so you can get a better sense of what it's about. A young girl looks for happiness inside a pack of cigarettes. A teenager contemplates her Congolese traditions during a family wedding, and an adult daughter reconnects with her mother through their shared interest in fish. Tinged with pathos and humor, these punchy, sharply observed stories interrogate the moments in which femininity, womanness, and identity are not only questioned, but also imposed. I'm gonna get started reading. I just finished the first 2 short stories. First of all, each story follows the same girl as the main character, which I didn't expect. I thought they were all going to be about different women, so it's kind of cool that we're following the same girl on her journey through adolescence to becoming a woman. So far, the 3 stories feel a lot more slice of life to me than like traditional like beginning, middle, end, which I always feel kind of conflicted about like slice of life books, slice of life movies. There's something cool and kind of peaceful about them that you're really just experiencing life along with the characters, but they're also not necessarily the most captivating stories. But I'm only 3 short stories in, so I feel like I have to read more before develop my final review. I just read a page 77, which is about halfway through the book, and I think I'm gonna stop there. I feel like short stories would be a really great palate cleanser in between reading fiction books, and also because each of these short stories really deal with femininity and womanhood, but also immigration and poverty and a lot of other heavy topics. I feel like I need to like sit and digest each story and not read it all at once. So I think this is something that I'm gonna pick up over time. My overall thoughts, it's kind of hard to rate it before finishing it. So far, I would say 3 stars. I haven't felt like super captivated by it, but I really love all of the tough topics that it tackles, and as somebody who is also a woman and has grown through childhood and adolescence, I could relate to a lot of the stories, but in other ways the main character's life is so different from mine. So it's also cool to see a young girl grow up in a completely different way than I grew up and have completely different experiences. Definitely check the trigger warnings if you're gonna read this book. Like I said, it does deal with tough topics. Will I be reading a short story collection again? I would say yes. Please leave me your short story collection recommendations. I really had trouble finding good short story collection recs on Google, so let me know if you have any you love. I would love to read a like really fun, like silly, lighthearted story collection as well. What would I rate this genre as a whole? I would say 3 stars. Again, kind of like the poetry book, it feels like something I would pick up every now and then as a palate cleanser, but not something that I'm gonna read in one sitting and be like super excited to read regularly. I'm so glad that I found fantasy as a genre that I love, and this was so fun to do. Let me know if you would like like me to do a part 2, because I would love to read a biography and some fiction genres really outside of my comfort zone, like sci-fi, historical fiction, stuff like that. So let me know what genres I should read outside of my comfort zone next. All right, and with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!